dual language immersion programs are extremely important. It's not only to service the students who speak the native language, but to also integrate students who don't speak a second language and making sure that they're able to learn a second language. Language is culture and culture is language. And so it just allows them to really accept and celebrate their culture, and language is their culture.
Number one is that we're in a global society right now, so we have to be globally competitive. And because of that, we really do have to increase our mindsets about language. And so to do that, we have to have exposure of our students and our populations to other languages and other cultures. So I believe students can prepare themselves to be an effective dual language teacher in a few ways. One would be to really spend time in classrooms, current dual language classrooms. I believe that there's an ideal that people have in their brain, but really to look at what's in practice. So to spend time with real teachers, ask them real questions, find out what are some things that are points of learning or frustration, so that they know this is really, they're really prepared for the work. Dual language teaching it's fun and it's rewarding. I personally have done it, but it's also challenging because sometimes you don't feel like you have the same levels of support in like materials, for example, as say an English only classroom. So to truly prepare, I believe that pre-service teachers or students really should spend time in the classroom. Another thing that I'll point out is really spend time with different levels, because there's always an assumption for elementary, but if you're willing to grow with students, you might also consider an option of moving up to secondary, because they're highly needed at that levels.
Of course, it's for them to understand and know the academic language, because sometimes we will revert to L1 and it may not be academic. It may be a different dialect, or it may be a little more slang, and we want to make sure that it is appropriate for the classroom so that they have that academic language, that they understand all the literary terms, and that they're able to transfer this to our students. It's extremely important for these teachers to be able to have, not just the qualities of teaching the alphabet in Spanish and English, or teaching it in English and Mandarin, but it really is important for them to be able to understand how the brain works, to ensure that the students are getting everything that they need and understanding the same thing.
So when hiring a new dual language immersion teacher, the qualifications and qualities that we're looking for, in my opinion, would be threefold. Number one would be, do they have the actual credentials and authorizations? That's just the very basic minimum. But then also, do they have the mindset of continual learning? Because what we know about dual language right now changes. So for example, translanguaging is a concept that was not known about in about maybe 10 years ago. And so a lot of our dual language programs were taught a specific way. So if you're going to be part of the dual language program or any kind of language proficiency or acquisition, you have to be willing to continually learn. And then I think the third component that I would look for, especially when I was a principal, is the cultural piece and the willingness to embrace other cultures into the classroom.
So being a product of dual language back in the 70s, it's extremely important for us to be able to recruit teachers, to make sure that our teachers that are also in the pre-service program at UCR are being taught to be able to support students like our students here in Coachella. My mother was a student in the 50s back in Los Angeles and was not allowed to speak Spanish. So we had to, in my family, make sure that we kept our first language, and our grandparents made sure that they made that possible. And so I'm very happy to be bilingual and biliterate and advocate for bilingualism.